everyone. Welcome to Cellular Healing TV. I'm Ashley Smith, and today we join Dr. Pompa down on location in Siesta Key, Florida. He's with his good friend, naturopathic physician and chiropractic neurologist, Dr. John Lieurance. Dr. John has a simple procedure that he discovered in Germany that addresses conditions like tinnitus, hearing loss, and vertigo, conditions that tend to leave people hopeless. So I hope this episode brings you hope. Let's join Dr. Pompa and Dr. John. Welcome, everybody.
Dr. John, welcome back to Cell TV.
Thank you.
I'm excited to be here in Sarasota, man.
I know.
This is number 2 Cell TV for you, pal.
Yeah.
Well,
Pleasure.
you know, I had to come here because when someone's doing something great, man, I show up. Bro, I do. I really wanted to bring some of what you're doing alive and to people. But, you know, this one niche that not only did I say I have to bring this to Cell TV, I want to bring this technology to doctors and the doctors that I train. That's how big this is, man, honestly. And when we're dealing with conditions like, you know, tinnitus, hearing loss, and vertigo, these are conditions that people are hopeless, man. And yet there's been this discovery in Germany, this technology in Germany. You happened upon it. I'll let you tell that story, but
Sure.
You're the first to bring it to the U.S.
Yeah.
And I made you this vow that I'm going to help you do it after I saw it.
Yeah.
So anyway, and during this interview, you're going to get to hear from Dr. Kaiser himself from Germany. But man, tell the story about this. How did you come upon this?
Well, you know, my pain to purpose was chronic mold illness, Lyme, very similar to your journey. And so in one portion of my journey, I went to Germany to receive treatment for Lyme disease. And I was in southern Germany, and I had been involved with working with tinnitus and hearing loss and dizziness and Meniere's disease for a long time. But what I was doing was something called functional cranial release, where it was endonasal balloon manipulations and then various forms of exercise, neurological exercise, which we still do.
Right.
But what I found was that the results were with hearing loss and tinnitus were, they weren't quite what they were with some of the other things I was treating.
Yeah.
So I had a patient that came to me, had great results with their vertigo, but the hearing loss and the tinnitus was, marginal. So she went to see Dr. Kaiser in Germany, and then she reported back to me how great the results were. It cleared up her tinnitus, and her hearing improved. And she said, if you go do this training, like this would really complete your center.
Yeah.
So when I was over there, I was on Facebook, and she saw that I was close to Baden-Baden. She's like, "You've got to go meet Dr.
That's
Kaiser."
like Baden-Baden is it's a place in Germany, but it's the seminar that like everything in our space that is new, and I mean it starts there, man.
Yeah, and that's where Dr. Kaiser lives.
Yeah, wow.
And he and his father, they pioneered this treatment since like 35 years ago.
Yeah.
So I did. I reached out to Dr. Kaiser, and it was just like, we just connected right away.
And the timing must have been relevant.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So he really wanted to teach other doctors, and when I met him, he had only taught one other doctor, which is in northern Germany. So he really liked the idea that I had some of the background I did, and with chiropractic neurology and so forth, and so. We planned for me to come back and do some very intensive training with him, and shortly after that we launched LumoMed USA here in Sarasota, Florida.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I the first right here. Yeah, I was excited when I saw it because, like you, I had some infection from a cavitation move into my upper neck. It affected my hearing, and even some of the treatments I did affected my hearing. So it's like my wife kept saying, "Did you hear me?" And I'm like, you're not talking loud enough. I didn't hear you.
What?
It's like, but honestly, so for me, and you measured my hearing. This actually starts, which you actually see how that works, right? So we'll actually show you measuring my hearing. But it's just a simple hearing test, kind of get a gauge where somebody is, and then there's a baseline.
Yeah,
and we can go from there.
Yeah, well, it's important to assess it's called an audiometric evaluation, and so it's important to assess that because there's certain parameters that within conversation, and also how close you are to needing hearing aids, or how close you are to needing the improvement where you can get out of hearing aids if you're
Right.
wearing them. So really having all that assessment, and within tinnitus, which we see quite a bit, oftentimes people aren't really appreciating the fact that they are having a lot of problems with their hearing, because they've never really been tested. And so we can see that the damage starts in the ear, and it starts in the hair cells that are related to those frequencies.
Right.
And then it actually, the tinnitus often is, it's like if you hurt yourself or stub your toe, you got pain from that part of your body. So this is your body, an inflamed hair cell, inflamed inner ear. It's basically sending signals saying, hey, I'm hurting.
So the technology is a laser technology, right? We're going to hear from Dr. Kaiser, about the technical parts of it, but it's a special laser that performs at a very high level without burning you, basically.
Right.
I had it done; it was just warm. So explain a little bit about how it's working. How does it work? I mean, the results for this with hearing improvement, and all these conditions are spectacular. How does it work?
Well, it's hard to explain how it works without talking about the way that cells make energy. And so, mitochondria are in all of your cells, and they take energy from oxygen and glucose.
Right.
And so the functionality of these mitochondria seem to decline pretty rapidly in the inner ear. And laser has been, shown to have a beneficial effect to human cells and tissues.
Yeah, right. I mean, like I've done shows with Juve. It's red light therapy, near infrared therapy, and it affects the mitochondria. Obviously, this is very different than that, but still same principle.
The challenge for us was how to get the laser that far in, because you actually have to go through some bone to get to that cochlea, because it's like
that's where the power had to be really high.
Right.
But for the power to typically be that high, you're burning something.
Right. So you want it to be safe, but you also want it to be working at efficacy. So that was the challenge. So actually the technology now is way better than what they were using back in the early days with LumoMed.
Yeah. Well, you can see, just to show you how simple the procedure is, I'm going to be honest with you, I fell asleep today doing it. Yeah.
It's very relaxing.
But I know, check out this just clip. You'll see how simple it is.
Yeah, you see the lasers actually going right to the ear, and even to areas around the ear, because oftentimes some of the stress and tightness of some of the muscles even around the outside of the ear can be involved with lymphatic flow and drainage. Yeah. And so that's why it's important that we actually laser more than just the actual inner ear.
Well, you can see why I fell asleep. It wasn't like it was anything too invasive in my ear. But, okay, so you've even added to this. I mean, you get a lot of complicated stuff that flies in here, right? And you talked about how you do the cranial adjustments. Talk a little bit about that, and you'll kind of see me getting that done as well.
Well, as we talked about in the first podcast, you're either a swamp or a river, and so if you look at the inner ear, circulation is really important. So you're wanting to bring in the groceries and take out the garbage, right? And so that ability for regeneration is really critical. And when a lot of people don't really appreciate the fact that the skull is multiple bones that come together, and they're supposed to be, so there's supposed to be a movement pattern,
right?
To the skull.
Yeah, and we did the first show that we did. We actually focused on this, but now we're pulling it into. I mean, you can see how delicate these bones are right around the middle ear. So that's why adding this to the treatments obviously improves the whole treatment, speeds it up. So just to show them what are you actually adjusting with these balloon techniques, and you'll see in a minute. You want to hold it up? There we go. Go ahead.
So there's two focuses that we have with this. Is you're mobilizing the bones themselves, and in particular this red bone in the middle. It's called the sphenoid, and all of the bones actually converge in and touch the sphenoid. So when we do the balloon adjustment, it's called an endonasal balloon manipulation.
And we're going to put the link to the first show right here, so you can actually watch that, because we get into some serious detail on it. But go ahead.
Yeah. So we do that manipulation, but what you have to understand is that there's connective tissue wrapped all around all of this, and it actually becomes the whites of your eyes. It wraps into your sinuses, wraps into your ear, And so that deep connective tissue, which they also call the dura mater, which in Latin is tough mother, right?
Yeah.
Because mother, it protects your central nervous system.
Absolutely.
So there's a release to that, and over our lifetime, it could be from the birth process, or it could be from hitting your head, or traumas, or it could be from bad posture. You can actually get adhesions so that this connective tissue isn't movable and it's not flowing, and so that restriction can prevent good circulation. So drainage from the head and from the inner ear. So we do these manipulations to enhance really circulation.
Yeah, no, exactly. And in the protocol, you evaluate people when they come in to say, do they need this? Do they just need the laser? And then there's more. There's more. Yeah. So, I mean, talk about some of the other things that, I've been through the ringer here.
Well, we're finding some exciting results with using exosomes intranasally. So it's a pretty simple, and as you can see right here, we're putting some intranasal exosomes with Dan, and he's just kind of laying back, and we keep him at that reclined position for 20 to 25 minutes, and this has a good effect to absorb, these, exosomes, which are from placental stem cells, into the area there. And
exosomes, just to catch people back up, they're not stem cells. They're what stem cells produce. I've done some shows about them, and they're small, they're tiny. They're able to get into these areas that are potential injured. So once again, you're taking that protocol to the whole next level.
Right. So, it's all about ways that we can create more regeneration, and really maximize the regenerative effect in the body, because the inner ear is considered to be like impossible to regenerate.
That's what I was just going to say. I mean, that's why I got excited about this, because these are conditions that no one has hope. Hearing loss, this prevents hearing aids. I mean, in Dr. Kaiser's piece, he talks about people coming back from crazy places where there was no hearing, or they were already using hearing aids and coming back from it. So that to me is exciting. And I know, tinnitus, I had it. I had so much mercury up in my jaw that it was just, I would just hear ringing, buzzing, at night, especially when I was tired. At night, when everything's quiet and you just hear it going on, maddening actually. I also went through episodes of vertigo when I was sick. And again, I came out of it, but many people don't. They're living their lives this way. That's why, again, this excites me, man. Bringing a lot of people hope.
Yeah, if you, after watching, this episode, for sure, if you went and talked to your audiologist or your primary care doctor, they're going to absolutely say it's impossible.
Absolutely.
You're wasting your time. But there actually is some studies that show that there's some efficacy with laser to the inner ear. Yeah.
Well, let's show let's bring Dr. Kaiser in from Germany, which he was gracious enough you brought. So let's hear from him himself. They can hear more about the technology. And he even mentioned some of the studies and the work they're doing. So check it out. All right, Eamon Kaiser, welcome to Cellular Healing TV. I'm glad you could join us in this interview. I appreciate that, all the way from Germany. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me.
Yes. So I want you to talk about this technology that we have been talking about. So I so appreciate the fact that you were able to hop on this interview and bring some light to it. You're the creator of this technology, correct?
I'm not the creator. It's a family thing. My father developed the therapy and developed a lot in this field. And of course, we improved a lot in this way of treatment. The technology is one part of the whole treatment that we call the LumoMed treatment.
Mm-hmm. So give me the history then with your father was obviously, there's a story here somewhere. Tell me that, how this all started, and then we'll get into more of why it works so well. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, the whole story started more than 20 years ago. And this time there had been done the first experiments with laser treatments. And we installed the so-called LumoMed laser treatment, where we are specialized in the treatment of inner ears.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, it was a story of a lot of developments in a field that in the general medicine, there are no solutions. For the inner ear problems like tinnitus, vertigo, hearing loss, and so on, there are no solutions for patients. And the idea was to find a technology which can reach the inner ear. The inner ear is a very complex system in our bone. There is a very the bone where the inner ear is very difficult to penetrate with lasers. So we had to construct very, very strong lasers to really reach the inner ear.
Yeah, I had it done when I was here, and the irony is all I felt was maybe a little bit of warm. So, the power, of course, you think of power as like, gosh, I would really feel that, but I really didn't.
Yeah, it's not a laser knife like or a laser gun like most people think when they hear they get treated by laser. The lasers that we use today are constructed from a very innovative company. The company is called Asyra, and we are working together with them since 6 years now. After my father was in retirement, I built up a new company together with my wife, and we try to find a company which is very sophisticated and established. And the company Asyra, they produce high power lasers, but on the same time they found a special technology how to avoid a heating of the skin. Because the problem with laser treatment is when you have a very high power, you have the danger that you could burn the skin. So they developed a technology where they can put a lot of very high power laser light on the skin, on the area that should be treated. Not only the inner ears, lasers can be used, for example, for pain reduction, can be used for wound healing, things like this. And on the same time, this high power treatment doesn't heat the cellular structure. So we have deep penetration, we have a very high effectiveness without any heating of the cells. So you don't burn.
Did your father, did he have what is his background that he was able to develop this?
Well, this was just a personal situation for him to develop this. But like I already told, he lives on a small island in Europe, and my wife and me, we have this company since 2008 now, and we developed technology together with the other laser.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So tinnitus, we talked about that, hearing loss. How effective is this? What have you seen with this? Obviously, Dr. John's using it with great results here, but you've been doing it longer than Dr. John, and it's bigger in Germany. It's just now coming to the U.S. But tell us about some of the results you've seen with some of the conditions you mentioned.
Well, like every treatment, it's necessary to see how big is the damage. It's very difficult to say you have a 100% healing if you compare a small damage with a big damage. So depending on the damage, on the size of the damage, which you can very easily evaluate with hearing tests, we can say that if you have a middle damage, so not very strong, not very soft, in the middle field, this means a damage around 30 to 40 decibel. So you have a loss of the normal hearing. Sorry, the normal hearing is between 0 and 10 decibel. Beginning from 30 decibel, you start that you get hearing problems. You do not understand a normal conversation. You cannot follow a normal conversation. So if we take this 30 decibel as a middle damage field, you can imagine that we have an improvement of 10 decibel for 10 treatments. So this means after 10 treatments, we already have an improvement in a normal hearing area, because between 10 and 30 decibel, this is our normal hearing. Of course, if you need to have follow-ups then, so the patient usually comes for the first 10, then after 3 to 6 months, they receive a follow-up treatment of again 10 decibel, and then we are already in an area between 10 and 20 decibel. So it's an incredible improvement. We speak of a cured inner ear if you reach the line of 10 decibel. So the success rate is extremely high, as we have the possibility to improve the whole hearing capacity. People who usually need hearing aids, they can put them away because they hear normal after a certain period of treatments. It's important to understand that the laser therapy is not something like an operation. We do not open the skin and take something out and close it again. It's a biostimulation process. This means every cell needs a certain time to get cured after the treatment. So it's not, you do not go to the treatment and after 10 days you are healthy. So maybe we split the question. The first is, if we look on the diseased bad hearing or hearing loss, that's just the symptoms that you do not hear right like you're used to.
Yeah.
The typical process is that you have a hearing loss, for example, due to stress or due to infections, even due to loud music, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, you can have it on a loud concert, for example. A lot of people get hearing losses.
Right.
So if we take only the hearing loss without any other symptoms, like for example, tinnitus or vertigo, this is absolutely easy to treat because you can count that you have an improvement of 10 decibel for 10 treatments. So you take the hearing test, you see how big is the damage, and then you already can say how many treatments the patient will need. So a usual hearing loss of 20 to 30 decibel will need between 20 and 30 treatments until this patient is completely cured.
Wow. That's amazing. And then what about with your results with tinnitus, which is maddening for people, obviously, right? I mean, you know, the ringing in the ear, is it a very similar progression?
It's not a similar progression because the tinnitus is very, it's depending on so many factors.
Yeah, that's true.
If you, no, I have to start in another way. The easiest way to treat a tinnitus is if it's depending on an acute acoustic trauma. For example, an explosion or a gunshot, things like this, or a concert. Because there are no factors which have another influence on it. Maybe those are people who have a complete normal life, work balance, things like this. So in this case, it's easy because those patients just need to wear earplugs during the whole treatment time to avoid that they have any other noises. And we can count the same situation like with the hearing loss. We can see the damage on the hearing tests, and we can say in advance how many treatments they will need. But most patients with tinnitus do not suffer from tinnitus due to acoustic traumas. Most of them suffer from tinnitus due to stress.
Yeah.
And now it's quite difficult because what we cannot do with the LumoMed treatment, we cannot change their lives.
Yeah, you can't remove the stress necessarily. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's more complicated to treat, and it depends a lot on the behavior of the patients. We cannot really, of course we can explain this, of course we can give help, but you need to change your life if you are in a situation like most people who get tinnitus.
Right.
Because, I would say more than 60% of my patients suffer from tinnitus due to emotional stress.
Yeah.
It's not the stress that they have because they have so much work. It's more, this can be very positive stress, you know, when you have a positive stress, you have a lot to do, you earn your money and so on. This can be very positive. But if it's combined with a lot of emotional stress, then it's getting quite difficult to find a way out of this situation.
Yeah, and sometimes it could be physical, chemical. I mean, we have a lot of people who have a lot of mercury built up. When we start removing the mercury, their, you know, tinnitus actually starts to lower down, go away. But with this combination, it would be amazing. What about, I mean, vertigo is debilitating for people. I mean, you know, what are the results with that?
Well, the vertigo is absolutely great because the results with vertigo are incredible. I try to explain what we are doing with the vertigo. With the laser, we are stimulating the inner ear cells. Our hearing is in the so-called cochlea. If we have a vertigo situation, you have to understand that this is like a slow transport of information. In our brain, we have let's say, a central coordination system. This central coordination system is reasonable to have a normal balance system. We create, or this central coordination station creates a view of the room around us, together with the eyes, together with all my external nerves. So my brain knows in what position my legs are, even if I don't think about it. My brain knows in what position my hands are if they are behind my back, even if I do not see it. That's very important. And the third information is coming out of the equilibrium, out of our inner ears. And this is like a coordination system. It has an X, Y, and a Z axis. So it tells me what position my head is.
Right.
And this needs to be 100% together. Only then you have a normal feeling of balance. If the inner ear cells are damaged due to acoustic traumas, due to stress, due to any toxic situations, the information of the movement of the brain is slower, and so our central coordination system doesn't get it together. And what happens? You get vertigo.
Got it.
Yeah, you can compare it. For example, if you are on a boat, best is you are in the boat. You are in the boat, so you sit in a room. You have the feeling that you are sitting in the room, but your equilibrium is doing like this.
So what does the laser do to correct it?
Yeah, the laser gives the energy, the power, so that those inner ear cells, especially the cells of the equilibrium, can be cured, and they have enough energy to get faster information like it was before. And why is it so easy to treat? It's because our equilibrium is very important for us. For example, if you see a patient who has vertigo out of the civilization, you do not have a chance to survive. Because you need to have a normal walk, you need to be able to have a normal life situation. With a vertigo, you have to imagine that the room is spinning around. It's like you are absolutely seasick.
Yeah.
So you do not have a normal life anymore.
No. Yeah, that's why with this treatment, I'm wondering why it's taken so long, honestly, to get this to the US. I mean, this has obviously been used in Germany for many years. Are there other European countries where they're using this technology?
The technology, yes, but not the indication. The laser technology is used at a lot of areas on the body, But this specialization on treatment of the inner ear,
Yes, we
only,
use a lot of lasers here in the U.S. for different conditions, but it's never been successful in the ear. So how, in Germany or there in other countries, how long have they been doing this?
well, that's one of those facts why I decided to share the knowledge about it, because the first experiences had been done in my family from my father, and he didn't want to give the information how to treat it for several years, and also because it was not there had not been enough experiences about it. But now, after nearly 30 years, I'm doing this treatment since 15 years now.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a lot of experience in this field, and we needed a long time of how you say it in English, just hold on. We needed a long time to develop the right technology, because the lasers that had been in use in medical areas, they had been always too weak. So the generation of lasers we had been using 10 years ago, had been lasers which had been exclusively constructed for us. So nobody could buy this on the open market,
I got it. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously the laser's powerful. I mean, have you experimented on other areas, other joints, other, things besides just the ears with these powerful lasers that don't heat? I mean, that's exciting technology.
Yes, absolutely. It's fantastic. And it's fantastic. For pain management, for example, you have very high success rate, but you have to know that the people who are suffering from inner ear diseases, they are, they are helpless.
Yeah,
they don't
right.
have a chance to come back to normal life. So this special field became my specialization.
That's why I wanted to do this show. I mean, I've done shows on other things, even lasers, but with these things we're talking about with the ears, that you're right. I mean, there's just no hope for people. I mean, so that's why I was like, does this work? Does this really work? And when I heard that it does, I said, okay, John, we have to do a show on this. I mean, people will be flying in from around our country to get to this office, really exciting. That's why, honestly, that's why I'm stunned that it's really, I can't believe it hasn't taken off yet, just because people need help with this. I mean, if you can go without hearing aids, right? Like you said, it's, with vertigo, it's debilitating, and yet there's a simple answer here. I mean, I did the treatment. I mean, it's not like it's painful. There's nothing invasive about it, right? It's remarkable. Really remarkable. So, now, are there any studies being done on this in Germany right now?
Yes, of course. There have been a lot of studies done for the treatment of inner ears with even with much less power, and they already had enough results so that it's really absolutely incredible that it's not. Let's say that's not already spread, but like I told you, it's a really very personal thing. It's a very personal history behind this, and our idea was now, if we are the young generation, to spread the knowledge over the world, because in the past the patients, they came from everywhere to Germany to get the treatment, and it's quite difficult, of course, if you need to plan this with flights and hotels and so on. Even now, I'm working together with a colleague in Hamburg, in North Germany. Our office here is in Baden-Baden, in south of Germany. And this already helped, because for the people in Germany, they also needed to travel really long. But now, together with John, it's of course a fantastic option for all the patients coming from America, which need to come over the big lake,
right? Yeah.
For the treatment.
Yeah. No, exactly. My promise to John was, look, let's bring this to more doctors around the U.S. I mean, right now people can fly here, thank God, to Sarasota, but which easier than Germany. But yeah, I mean, my gosh, it's so affordable. It's so simple, and it's so effective. Just being here, hearing the stories, it's been fantastic.
Also, concerning the effectiveness, it's definitely that we have better effects if the patients do not have to travel too long, because of course they need to take this for their holiday time. They need to take 2 weeks. Then after, let's say, 3 to 6 months again, 2 weeks. You can imagine how complicated this is. Also to combine this with the family, to combine this with the work, with the profession, is definitely difficult. So the easiest or the best results we get if we have a local people, because we do not need to treat them in a, let's say, in a row. We do not have to treat them 10 days after each other. We treat them, for example, once a week or twice a week.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same when you train a muscle. It doesn't make sense to train the muscle for 2 weeks and then you do nothing anymore.
Right.
This is why we also constructed a home laser system, which helps the people to give the inner ears enough energy to stem the time between the big treatments, you know?
Right. Okay.
So they have the possibility, they get their 10-day treatment, or sometimes if the damage is too big, I also start with 20 treatments in the first for the first treatments, and then they go home and they take with them a mobile device, which is of course not so strong like the devices we use in our clinic, but then they do not have the, I call it the daily energy loss, because of course you cannot protect your ears, but you cannot protect them like, for example, you have a broken leg. The broken leg is fixed, so you cannot walk, you cannot play football. You have to accept that your leg is not used in the time to get cured. But on the inner ear, even if you wear earplugs, you need to communicate. You need to hear something around you. So even if they are strongly damaged, they need to work. So that's quite difficult, of course, you can imagine.
Right. Yeah, so people could treat several days in a row, and then they could fly, come back, treat several more days in a row. And like you said, you can give them some things to do in between to, really keep that healing going, as you're saying, keep the energy in there. Well, Dr. Kaiser, thank you. I know you're coming from, I don't know what time it is there, but I appreciate you jumping into this interview. Fantastic. Thank you so much for the technology. Yeah, bringing what your father brought to life, right? So that we can experience it in the U.S. And this is the first clinic in the U.S. and about to be more. But we can have. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm doing the show just so people can, at least in this country, fly here to Sarasota pretty darn easy. So it's easier than Germany. Thank you, Doc. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, for here I can say good night, because
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Good night. Great stuff. Yeah, man. Appreciate you hooking me up with him. What a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, he's amazing.
That's awesome. All right. Well, it doesn't even stop there. So when somebody comes in, and make sure you tell them, because people, I mentioned it when I was interviewing Dr. Kaiser there. People obviously were flying to Germany for this treatment. It's Sarasota now. Yeah, so you give them, we just do it now. Just tell them where to go, because if they want to make an appointment.
So our website is advancedrejuvenation.us. And if you click on Meet Our Doctors, you can schedule a consultation with me. Yeah. Right there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah. And then they get evaluated, obviously.
Real important too is I need an audiometric as well. So go and get an audiometric. Sometimes you can get them free at Costco.
Okay. Awesome.
But you'll need to attach that file for that consultation.
And if for whatever reason they don't have it, obviously they can do it if they just say, I'm coming, I need this done. But you want to evaluate them first, even to see if you can help them. Right. So that's the benefit of getting the audiometric ahead of time. So, okay, awesome. There's another part to this. Chiropractic plays a role. I mean, you can see just even from the balloon adjustment, but you specialize in something else. Explain it.
Well, so when I started utilizing the endonasal balloon manipulations, and again, I mean, this is going to sound really far out probably to a lot of people hearing like, oh, a balloon in the nose. It is by far the most powerful physical adjustment I think anyone can receive.
It's amazing.
And I have seen absolute amazing results with conditions that just not, I don't think anything else would have really touched that.
Yeah.
And so, early on I was noticing that people with Parkinson's and stroke and these different neurological conditions were improving. And so I was seeing this improvement, but I knew I could make it better.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had been studying through what's called the Carrick Institute.
Yeah.
And the Carrick Institute certifies chiropractors to be chiropractic neurologists. And so I went through all that training. So I married the functional neurology with the endonasal balloon manipulations, and so we call that functional cranial release. And what's really critical, I think, for a lot of people to understand is if they have a lot of balance and vestibular consequences to their condition, the laser is going to wake those nerves up.
Yeah, he talked about that in the interview, Dr. Kaiser.
So it's regenerative to those nerves, but it's not going to help you to actually reestablish some of these nerve, the nerve flow. So like there's different, like for instance, one of the challenges that I see with a lot of my patients is that their communication between their eyes, their neck, and their head is all off because there's a conversation where the eyes are talking to the neck, head turns or moves one way, the eyes have to adjust to that. Otherwise, you just can't have proper coordination.
Right. Well, I watched you yesterday with a quadriplegic patient, and you were doing it all, right? And, his eyes were jerking, and then you did some things, some weighting, some things I was familiar with as well. And, I saw an immediate improvement, just with some of the things. And again, that's a training that you teach them. But again, not everyone needs that aspect of this, but you evaluate them for, this complete protocol, right? How much of it they need, even on top of the laser. Then there's some other slick little homeopathic injections that you do.
So there's some regenerative, the homeopathic is called Intercell. And Dr. Smithers, who I think we used in the first episode, really, really talented with using ozone, prolozone. And so he has a protocol that he does an acupoint injections around the ear. And we really see that kind of add some value to the overall plan. And we don't do all of these on all the patients, but we try to assess them to create
exactly. I wanted to experience it. You can check it out here. We'll run that while we're talking. But I wanted to experience it just because I wanted to experience everything, so I could see the whole thing from beginning to end, your whole protocol, which is amazing. So what the Intercell, just a little bit more about it. What does it do? When I say homeopathic, some people get that, but it seems a little more than that. But
well, my first experience with the Intercell, it helped me dramatically with some pain I had from Lyme disease, and this was 15.
Yeah, and by the way, this can be done on joints. This can be done, many different ways. It just happens to be some people may need it in this protocol for the ear.
And Dan, I've tried a lot of things. I'm like you, very curious.
Yeah.
And I have had a lot of homeopathics that I've worked with that are injectable. I've never experienced something that was this profound as the Intercell.
Yeah, that's awesome. Dude, you've put together the protocol. And the fact that you found this for the inner ear, these problems that people are just suffering with, man, and they don't have to fly to Germany. My commitment to you is we're bringing it to more docs. So
there's just really no there's no alternative for these are conditions that just fall through the cracks.
There's no alternative
with modern medicine.
There's some surgical stuff for certain hearing loss. But who's going to do it? Because the outcome is not great. And you're just not going to take that step. So most people end up with hearing aids.
Which, by the way, so sound stress is what got them there, right? So like I just had a veteran come in just maybe an hour ago, and he was he had the headset and he's decoding Chinese and Russian language, and he said, well, these sounds would be really loud, and I'd have to still listen to it to try to decipher the code. And so his hearing has just gotten really challenged. So he had been wearing hearing aids, but for some reason, he just intuitively decided that he wanted to kind of stop. And I told him, this is great, because when people are wearing hearing aids, actually is a bit of a headwind, Because if you think about it, if you're amplifying sound,
Yeah.
that amplified sound stress,
It makes it worse.
so, part of our protocol is we'll actually have people really avoid as best they can loud environments and even put in earplugs.
Yeah, it's awesome. I appreciate it, man. This is a great great show.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, Sarasota, again, Dr. John is going to provide you with the link. We'll provide it right here. Also, the past Cell TV that we did with the ballooning. Check it out more. But this is going to be a show you want to share, because most of us know people with hearing problems. Please share the show. This is amazing technology that people don't have to fly to Germany for, because you brought it here, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Well, that's it for this week. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. This episode was brought to you by Cyto Detox. Please check it out at buycytonow.com. We'll be back next week and every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. We truly appreciate your support. You can always find us at cellularhealing.tv, and please remember to spread the love by liking, subscribing, giving an iTunes review, and sharing the show with anyone you think may benefit from the information heard here. And as always, thanks for listening.